Wow. I was just in the car a few minutes ago, and I didn't have anything else to do, so I decided to go on YouTube while I was sitting and waiting. And while I was on YouTube, I happened to come across this woman by the name of D. Martin. And she began to talk about why she supported Kim Burrell. Now, I have no issue with her support of Kim Burrell. I'm not going to critique any other uh, video blogger who may support or may not support Kim Burrell. That's a personal and private or whatever opinion, and it's your right to have. And so, I'm not going to debate whether you should or should not support or agree with Kim Burrell because, I have my own opinion on that as well. But what I had of an opinion about in regards to what this woman was saying was her impression of Christianity, the black church. And it stemmed out of, based upon what she was saying, it stemmed out of her own personal experience of being involved in the black church and undoubtedly being very much disappointed.
Now, let me say, I have been out of Christianity and the Christian church, that whole scene, circle, and all that for a number of years.
And so as I listened to her, I found myself less and less in agreement with her because the things she was saying was so far-fetched and untrue. She had said that she had stepped away from Christianity many years ago and that she had been involved in ministry, in heavily involved in the church for years. And somewhere along the line, she decided to part ways, and she called it being set free.
But so it's kind of a story as to how I got free.
She was set free when she left out of the clutch. She didn't say the clutch, but I'm saying this, the clutches of religion or Christianity or being saved, or however she would like to phrase it. But she became disassociated with the church. Okay, and so based upon this disassociation and her seemingly disappointment with the church, she has some very corrupt opinions of the church based upon, evidently, she was sitting in the wrong church among the wrong people. And it wasn't one church, because based upon what she was saying, she'd been in many churches in different places. And so there, right there, that alone speaks volumes, because we are not to be jumping from church to church. And I don't know whether she was a traveling evangelist or whatever she was doing, whether she was opening. Well, she didn't say she was the pastor, but she just said she was in ministry for those years. And so in listening to her articulation of the church, and particularly the black church, this is why I have to respond. I just cannot allow somebody to speak. I'm not going to say anybody can speak badly of the church. That's your prerogative. But to spread lies regarding the church is another thing. We have so many problems in the church because so many people have fallen away. And they have fallen away because they have fallen into the clutches of bad people, bad preachers, bad membership, bad whatever it was. Something was wrong, and they got chased out, and they became disenchanted. They became lost. She is definitely lost. And I don't know how that will be mended for her, but I do know this, that unless she gets back in step and fall into the precepts and the guidelines of our Lord Jesus Christ and what God has ordered for us to live, that she will not be happy at the end of the day. She will not be happy. And no matter how much she feels that she has become free, there is no freedom that is greater than the freedom that God can give to us. I speak this because I know this. I walk in liberty, not because of me, but because of the goodness and the mercy of God. He chose me. He called me out. And because he called me out and to come out from among them, and he gave me an ear to ear and eyes to see and to be receptive of the call, I am now free from the bondage of sin. But what I thank God for is I thank God that I never fell into disarray with the church, in that somehow my beliefs were warped by bad people or bad preachers. And that's not to say I didn't run into some, and I don't know any. That's not to say that, because I've ran into some, and I know some, and I know how this thing is. Okay, I know how this thing, and I know how people can become disenchanted. I know how they can be led astray, and I know how they can be hurt. And I know that the pain is great. I talk to people, and it almost makes you want to cry when you hear them talk about the church and how one day they were in the church and now they're so far removed from the church. It is unbelievable because of some kind of hurt, some kind of disappointment that happened in the church. My Lord, do not believe that I have not been disappointed. Do not believe that I have not been, I can't say led astray, but I will tell you this, that it is the devil's choice that none of us should be in church. That is why he has so many demonic people sitting in the church. They can be in the pulpit or in the pew, but they're there to disrupt the church. They're there to have you go running out. They're there to make you disbelieve in the thing that God has said. They're there that you will become disenchanted with the church and blame it on the church and not put the blame where the blame is. The blame is on the devil and the advocates of the devil, his agents that are everywhere. They're on your job. They're in your neighborhood, in your building, might even be in your own home. They're everywhere. They're not just in the church, and they're called people. They are called people. And so you become disenchanted because you go to church and you're amongst people. My Lord. Your trust is not supposed to be in people. Your trust and faith is to be in God. And if you allow the devil to chase you out and make you disappointed and make you become a speaker against him and against Jesus Christ, then he has done his job 100%. He has deceived you. The church didn't deceive you. Your deception is by the devil, because he sent those people to chase you out, and you went willingly because you were not totally surrendered unto the Lord. And had you been totally surrendered unto the Lord, nobody would have been able to chase you out, because you wouldn't have want to let go of the peace that surpasses all understanding, or the magnificence that God brings into your life and working every situation out for you. You would not have let it go. You would not have let it go so easily. My Lord. But then this woman talks about these churches and this 501c3.
First of all, because the American government owns churches now through the 501c little organization that most of these churches are under now, which puts themselves under governmental rule. And they then have to abide by certain governmental laws. Now, they are not, you wonder why certain churches don't speak on certain things, and certain churches don't say things, and why they don't stand there for this, or why they don't, whatever. And it's because of 501c3.
Which is tax exempt. Nonprofit organizations are tax exempt. Church is known as a nonprofit organization, and it is tax exempt, which means that all churches are 501c3. It is not about the government giving the church money. It is about going into the grocery store where the church is going buy food, or where they go buy equipment for the church or whatever, so that they will not have taxes on that items that they purchase. Now, yes, there are churches that reap the benefit of getting grant money, and those churches have to answer to a higher calling of the government because they've gone out and solicited funds from the government to build housing complexes for seniors and to do this and to do that. And so when they write up those proposals for that grant money, then they have a higher obligation. They must answer to the government for the government funds that the government is giving to them. But 501c3 is not government giving money to the church. It is tax exemption. That is what that is. And so, she says that, all these churches are getting money. They all got 50c3, and that's false. That's false. 501c3 is tax exempt. That's all it is. My Lord. But let me go back to being displeased or dissatisfied or being I don't know what, being disenchanted with the church. If the devil could chase us all out, he would. And if we allow him, he will. But the Bible tells us to give no room to the devil. And the Bible also tells us that God has said, my sheep hear my voice, and another they will not follow. And so when you fall prey to the devil and you fall prey to the things that he wants you to do, like leave this church and leave that church and go church hopping, trying to find the perfect church. There is no perfect church. The church is full of people. Yes, he's coming back for a church without a spot or a wrinkle. What church is that? That's the church that the real saints will be brought into, the real people of God. But that church is not going to be found here. He's coming back for that church. Who is the cornerstone of that church? Jesus Christ. He is the cornerstone of the church of God. And the real saints, the real holy and sanctified and set aside people, they will be the ones who are going to be in that church. But if you're looking for a church now without a spot or a wrinkle here on earth, in these churches populated by people, you're not going to find them. And you will be disenchanted and dissatisfied every time when you go in looking for that. Don't go in looking for that. Go in there looking for the Lord. And a greater, my Lord, a greater, my Lord, a greater love and compassion and hunger for his word and more of him in you. So D. Martin, I just wanted to say this. I don't go looking for the, talk about people who are posting things on the internet. So I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to show anybody up. But I pray that God will come back into your life and bring true joy into your life. When I was in sin and I was a lesbian, and that's the other part I didn't hit because you were talking about gay people and
coming from a place of homosexuality to me, and you can say what you want, is a state of delusion, is a state of confusion. And so therefore you will really get no true, real rational thought from them.
You used the word in the life. And when you said that, I kind of smiled because not many people understand what that word means. And so so in my mind, I started thinking that maybe you had one time. You had to be kind of dipping and dabbing, but I don't know. I'm not calling you gay, but you use that. There's certain terminology. That terminology is not used today in the life. No, they don't use that one anymore. But gay people are not ignorant people, and they're not, when you talk about the corruption of this planet and all this stuff that you were saying, and that this is some kind of, I forgot what the word you used. Let me just say this. Sin is a cancer. All sin is an abomination unto God. Not just homosexuality, but adultery and lasciviousness and lying and murder. All of these things, looking at your neighbor and deciding that you hate him because he got a better car than you. That is abominable to the Lord. High looks, looking at people and say, I'm better. I don't want her to come sit by me. I don't want her. She stinks. That's an abomination unto the Lord. He hates that. It's a sin. But we overlook all of these sins and just gravitate to this one thing. This one thing. Oh, we hate this thing more than anything else. You know what? I don't like people who mess with children. I hate that. If I were to find somebody like that, I'm dropping a dime right away. But two people who decide they're going to go off and do whatever they're going to do, that's them. They have to answer for that. I don't have to answer for that. They're two consulting adults, like you were a consulting adult when you laid down with that man or that whatever you were laying down with. And I would drop a dime if I knew somebody was messing around with an animal. I think that's sick. It ruins the animals. That's abuse. That's abuse. Any form of abuse is something I don't like. But people don't talk about those kinds of things. They turn up their nose and they're so spiteful against gays and homosexuals and all and da. And I'm not advocating for that lifestyle. I'm out of that. God called me out of it. I'm set free. I'm out of the bondage of sin and shame. I'm out of it. Because he had mercy upon me. He cared for me. He loved me. And he called me out and he gave me ears to hear. And the desire to follow him. And I thank him. I cannot thank him enough. And I pray, Dee, that you once again fall into step. Biblical text says that the judgment is going to be greater upon those who knew him and drifted away. Everybody, there's only one hell, and it's going to be the same for everybody. But can you imagine having once known the Lord and then turn to sin? Why would you're going backwards. My father would say you're going out of the world backwards, and you truly are. We come into this world sinless, but the moment we come into this world, this environment of the world out of our mother's belly, we enter a world of sin. You don't have to teach your children how to be good, how to be bad. We have to train them how to be good. Because the world is full of sin. The sin nature comes naturally to people. But the godly nature, the holy and righteous nature, that comes through the love and the long suffering of God and his tender mercies and his gentle care. My Lord, it comes because he draws us to him. And the closer we get to him, the more we love him. And whenever church you were in, D, whatever, you never drew near enough to him, which is why you could so readily and easily let him go. And now profess all of what you were professing and claiming to be so happy to be removed from him. My Lord, to God be the glory. I pray that you come under submission once again and discover what true happiness is and freedom is, and be once again able, if ever you were able back then, when you were back in those years when you were part of a church or churches, that you walk in liberty, in true liberty, in the glorious light of God's goodness. Thank you, Jesus.